What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Garage Denali. So this is a video that I'm making because it's pretty much an upgrade that I've been wanting to do for a very long time, and now that I finally have it, I'm basically going to be showing you guys how you do it. So basically, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce it. This right here is basically my OEM LED headlight, or full LED headlights, adaptive LED headlights for the BMW F32. The process might be the same, might be very similar for the F30 for the sedan counterparts. It should be also very similar to the F80, F8X, M3, M4. So these are the full LED headlights. As you see here, they're a lot brighter than the adaptive xenons that I have in the car, which I'll show you right now. So these are good. They're pretty good at night, pretty bright as well. But the thing is, I mean, while these do look good, they're nothing compared to the style of these. And I'm pretty much looking forward to getting these installed. So I found these on eBay. I found a really good deal on them since headlights are very expensive, brand new, let alone used, let alone brand new. And I found a really good deal on these. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're gonna have to do is pretty much remove the front bumper. That's held in with a bunch of clips throughout the front, in the wheel wells, underneath. And we're gonna do that so we can pop off the xenon headlights that we have on. And then at that point, we're gonna pretty much remove the negative terminal from the battery in the trunk, and then we'll get right to it. But we're gonna have to run some wiring from the trunk up into the FVM module, which lives in the passenger side footwell right up here. And I will show you guys along the way. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Alright guys, so before we get into the meat and potatoes of the video and show you exactly how to retrofit these headlights, I just want to make a little disclaimer here. I want to let you guys know. In order to do this retrofit with OEM headlights, you will need to do some wiring and you will need to do some coding. Luckily, there is this eBay seller, BMW Parts 74. His name is Marius, and he basically sells different wiring kits for your car, depending on what headlights you're putting in, depending on what car you have. For example, if you have a pre-LCI coupe, like how I have a 2014 435i, and I'm planning on installing the pre-LCI adaptive LED headlights, there's a certain wiring harness for that. Or if I had a sedan and I was installing 2018 headlights, for example, that's a completely different wiring harness. So the wiring harness is unique to the car that you have and the headlights that you're going to be retrofitting. So for example, even if I wanted to retrofit the facelift, the LCI headlights, that would require a different wiring harness compared to the one that you see here on the screen. And this guy Marius is good because not only does he make these wiring kits for you to purchase to do for your headlight pigtails, to run the two red wires from the fuse box in the trunk up to the FEM, and then the other wire from the FEM to the other fuse box under the hood. But he also includes these instructions right here that you see on the screen. And it's a printout that shows you exactly how to install these wires. So you'll also see that the wires are also pretty much labeled based on where they need to go. So he made it very easy in order to do this retrofit. So fear not that if you have any issues, you know, he also gives you his number, or he can give you his number if you want to reach out to him, and he's pretty fast as well. But like I also mentioned, he also does coding as well. So when you're completely done your installation, and if you're afraid of, you know, anything coding related, installing the proper software that you'll need to do this, or even having to learn anything, you don't have to, because he'll do it for you at the price of a small fee. So fear not. But like I said, I just want to let you guys know that this is something that you'll have to also consider, because the wiring harness is unique to the headlights you're installing, if it's pre-LCI, post-LCI, if it's adaptive or not adaptive, but also based on the car you're installing it in. So the video that you guys are seeing right now that I'm showing you, this is on a pre-LCI coupe. Although I will say this installation pretty much applies to the F32, F33 convertible, F36 Grand Coupe, as well as the F80 M3 and the F82 M4. And the reason why all these cars generally follow the same steps here, the same principle, is because the headlights and the front end is more or less the same. I mean, the headlights are more or less the same between the 4 Series and the M3 and the M4, so that's why this is all very similar. But like I said, if you have a sedan or facelift headlights, it's going to be slightly different, but the general principle is the same. You're going to need to purchase these headlight wiring, or the headlight wires that you see here, and ultimately you'll get a guide as well, and you'll be all set. All right, so first things first, we're going to go ahead and remove some T20 and T25 bolts all along here. So in order to get that, we're going to go ahead and peel off our weather stripping, just like that. Next thing that you want to do is grab an 8mm socket and go ahead and remove all of the 8mm bolts that you have in your footwell or in your wheel arch. I removed about 8 of them. You don't have to remove the wheel. It does help to jack the car up though, because you don't have clearance. But remove enough of the bolts so that you can easily pry this down, so you can access the 2 bolts right up here that hold the bumper to the fender. Go underneath the car and remove all of the 8mm fasteners and push clips that hold the bottom part of the bumper to the car. Next thing what you want to do is go ahead and grab an 8mm socket and remove the 2 screws, the 2 bolts that basically hold the bumper in to the fender, which is right here where you see these 2 holes. So go ahead and remove those, and the bumper is pretty much free from the fender. So go ahead and do that on both sides, and then at this point the bumper is ready to come out. Also note on both sides of the bumper that there's these 2 grooves here, which essentially go into their respective holes in the fender. So be mindful of that when removing it and also when reinstalling it. So now at this point, go ahead and grab a clean microfiber towel and go ahead and sandwich it right here between where the bumper and the fender meet. You want to protect your fender because this is obviously going to get scratched up. So go ahead and do that on both sides. And now at this point, the bumper is ready to come out. Of course, be mindful of any park distance control sensors you might have, fog lights that you may have, and headlight washers that you may have. So just be mindful of that when pulling off the bumper. And now at this point, we can wheel the bumper right off. It would also be easier if you had a second person to assist you. If you have headlight washers, in order to remove the hose from the actual headlight washing unit itself, all you do is compress this plastic just like that, and then you pull the 2 hoses apart, and then it breaks free. So this used to be right here. Go ahead and unclip any wires that might be getting pulled on that are still clipped into the bumper, and then go ahead and allow your bumper to sit somewhere nice and safe where it won't get scratched. Because now we're ready to remove the headlights. Okay, so this was a little more difficult than I anticipated, and that's only because I didn't take the wheel off and I didn't take the fender liner out. So ultimately, you have a 10mm bolt up here, and then you have a Torx T30 right up here. And then you also have another 2 Torx T30s underneath the headlight. So basically, they're right under here, and they're these long bolts that you see here. The 2 Torx that go on the bottom. This is your 10mm, which is on the side, which is basically right in here. And then lastly, you have this one, which is accessible from the top, and this goes right in here just like that. So basically, I already removed this one here, but it's right here. And then your second one is right in there. The camera can focus. It's right in there. And then your third and fourth ones are basically underneath the headlight, and you have to access them from behind the headlight itself. So once you do that, you go ahead and pull out your plug, and then you can remove the headlight. So once again, the 10mm bolt that holds the headlight in place is right up here. It's this arm that kind of runs towards the back of the car, right next to the cover right here for your headlight. Okay, these are our two headlights side by side. On the left we have the LED, on the right we have the xenon. So at this point we're going to go ahead and install our LED headlight. Okay, so once you've secured your headlight in place, you need to take a look at the back of your pigtail here and see if you have any wires in pins 11 and 12, which are the blue and the white one. In my case, since I don't have that, I need to basically take these little twisted wires here, and I need to match these with connectors with pins 9 and 10 in here. So easy enough, these are color coded. So you can see pin 9 and pin 10 is the red and then the brown, just like how it is in here. The brown and then the red, or I'm sorry, it's the red and then the brown. So the red one comes first, just like how you see here, the red one comes first and then the brown one comes second. These need to basically be bridged with these connectors here, with these tabs. Once you do that, the pin for 11 and 12 have to go into their respective slots here where you see the blue and the white. So 11 is the blue one and 12 is the white one. So go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so here what you need to do, you need to take your black plastic tabs, and you'll see here there's two channels in which the wires run through. So the wire that's sticking out here is going to run through one of these channels, and then the corresponding wire that's already in the pigtail here that you see will basically run through the other channel, and this creates a bridge. So this metal contact that you see in here basically creates the bridge. So you can kind of see in here on the left wire, on the left side, that's the wire that is from this, thing right here. And then on the right, you can see the wire right from the harness into the pigtail as it passes through. So that's essentially what you need to do for pins 9, 10, in order to create 11 and 12, which will essentially go right in here, where you see the blue and the white. Once you do that and you close the flap on the tab, go ahead and grab a pair of pliers and sandwich it together. As you can see, the lid, the cover should basically be just about flush with the housing. Okay, once you've done that, go ahead and grab a pick tool, and we're gonna go right in here and pull out the blue plug for pin number 11, which is the red and the white wire, and then the white one for pin number 12, which is the brown and yellow wire. Okay, so in order to get your pins into your pigtail here, after you remove the plugs, you have to basically get a pick tool or a very small screwdriver and insert it in here and basically pry on this door, this cover, whatever you want to call it. And as soon as you remove it, this is what you have. So you need to remove this on the side where you have pins 11 and 12. And just so you know, the pins are also marked. You can see here in the, you can see up here, it has a number 12 for pin number 12. So once you remove that, go ahead and grab your yellow connector here, and with the smooth side of the connector facing inside the pigtail and the rough side facing the outside, go ahead and insert your pins through the pigtail. And you can even look at the other pigtails or the other pins in here to get an idea. So you can see that all of these connectors in here are the rough side facing away and the smooth side facing the inside. That's what you want. So go ahead and get it seated in there as it should. And then at this point we can go ahead and tap into our pins 9 and 10. And then at that point we're pretty much ready to install the headlight. So basically the final product will look like this. So pin 9, 10, 11, and 12 is the red and yellow, the brown and yellow, the red and yellow, and the brown and yellow, in that order. This is basically what we did. We created 2 bridges for pins 9, 11, and 10 and 12. So that's what this will look like here. Now at this point, it also wouldn't be a bad idea to go ahead and wrap this up in Tessa tape just for added security, added strength, and just so we make sure that we don't mess up any of our wiring, especially further down the road. So you can go ahead and wrap it. So I know it's going to be a little difficult to see, but when you get it in right, you'll see the pin coming in through, kind of like how you can see that last one down there. So that means it's sliding through. Once it's all the way in, you'll hear a click, and that's it. Okay, once you've got both your headlights in and your wiring all squared away, now at this point it's pretty much time to go ahead and get your bumper mounted back on, and we're going to go ahead and reattach all our connections, any plugs, harnesses you might have unplugged, and we're going to go ahead and get our bumper reinstalled. Might be helpful to have somebody to help you here, second person. Also keep in mind these 2 tabs here that stick out go right into your fender, right here and right there. Let's get our bumper back on now. Okay, once you did that, go ahead and make sure your bumper is fully seated. You'll see that the 2 tabs here that go into the fender should pretty much easily line up without any issues at all. This is giving me a little bit of a challenge because this part of the bumper here was not meshing up with the bumper carrier itself, the actual metal steel bar. So once I figured that out, the 2 sides here, these 2 pretty much fit on like a glove. So now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and tighten those 4 bolts, 2 on each side. Then I'm going to do the top of the bumper and the bottom of the bumper. I'm not putting the wheel liners in just yet because I want to, leave them open in case when it's time to actually code the car, if there's any issues and if I have to troubleshoot, I'm going to leave them off just for now. I'm not going to drive anywhere, so I'm leaving them out for now. So basically all of these bolts here that you see from both wheel liners, I'm leaving out. But everything else I'm going to go ahead and secure. So I'm going to go ahead and basically add the bolts for the top side of the bumper and the bottom side. Okay, so next order of business is to grab a 10mm socket, and we're going to remove that nut right there because we need to access a pigtail underneath this fuse box here. And we're going to plug in one end of one of our 2 red wires, which basically has to run from inside the car up into the engine bay. So let's go ahead and get that 10mm nut removed. Okay, so here, once you remove this box, there is a red tab from this pigtail here, this beige one, that you need to pull up on, as you see here in these instructions. And once you do that, this whole thing wiggles out. So go ahead and pull it out, and then grab your red wire that's labeled for pin 5. That goes in here. This even says on here, fuse box pin 5. So that will go into the slot right there, right next to the brown one with the tab down here facing the bottom. So once you do that, go ahead and reinsert the pigtail and then go ahead and resecure the fuse box back into the car. Okay, once that's done, we need to take that wire loom right there and run it through the interior up into the passenger side footwell. So we're going to go ahead and start fishing that wire through. So now at this point, we're going to go ahead and grab our wire and we're going to run it behind this cushion here on the left. I apologize, it's dark. I'm doing this at night, but we're going to go ahead and run this wire behind the cushion here. and then behind the door panel right there, or at least in that groove between the door panel and the seat. And then we're gonna go ahead and come over here under the door sill right here. We're gonna just pry this off and snug it right through. And then eventually that wire has to come up in here into the FEM, which is the front electronic module that lives right here in the front. So as far as the wiring back here, I found it easier if you fold the seat down to kind of sandwich the wire between the seat and the chassis right there. And you might have to bring the seat back up just to wiggle it through. But I also found it easier to remove this side cushion here on the left, or the passenger side of the car. Basically, you start at the top and you just pull forward towards the front and it just pops right out. And then installation is just as easy, just snaps right back in. Once you do that, you can see we have our red wire right there, which basically I just fished right through here, just like that, out of sight, out of mind. And now at this point, I'm gonna bury this a little more in here, and then I'm gonna hide this right here underneath the weather stripping and run it all the way to the front. And this side trim here just pulls right out. You can see the clips have remained in the car. You just pop these off, reinstall them on the trim, and then snaps right back in. The next step here is to grab a 10mm socket, and we're going to remove the bottom panel here in the passenger side footwell. This is the same panel that you remove when changing the cabin air filter. So go ahead and remove the 10mm nut right there, and right there. Two 10mm nuts, and then pull down the trim. Go ahead and remove the wiring for the cigarette lighter underneath the glove box here, as well as the wiring for your light, for your footwell, and then go ahead and get this panel out of the way. Next thing what you want to do is go ahead and remove your trim here on the side. This is just held in with 3 rivets, push clips, just like that, as you see. So go ahead and just pull it towards the center of the car, and then it just pops right out. Now at this point, go ahead and grab a Torx T20 and remove the screw, the bolt that's right in here. And then this cover is ready to come out because we need to access the pigtail connectors that are right in here. So just go ahead and wiggle this out. All right, once you're here in the FEM module, go ahead and remove this first black connector that you see right here, which will be the first one right here, closest to you. It's not the one up there, it's the one down here, next to the other black one, and then you'll see a space and then a white one. So go ahead and pull that out. And then the next thing you need to do is go ahead and get a pick tool or something really small in here, in the small little holes. If I can show you. Sorry, I know it's dark. So get a small pick tool in here on both sides, because there's 2. And you want to pull off the cover and reveal these 2 separate pigtails. Next, what you need to do is look at the black one and find pin 25, which you can see is labeled right here. Pin 22 is the first one, 23, 24, 25, which is this yellow and blue one. This is also labeled on this plastic housing here. You can see it's upside down. Now it's right side up, so 22, 3, 4, and 5 is the 4th one right here. Once you do that, go ahead and stick a pick tool and remove pin number 25. Just go ahead and push on the actual metal, and you can see here pin 25 is halfway out. So go ahead and pull it out, because we need to tie that in with this here that we ran from the trunk. Okay, once you found your wire for pin 25, go ahead and connect it to your red wire that you just ran from that fuse box in the trunk. Go ahead and join them together. And now at this point, we need to slip over the heat shrink, just like that. We're gonna use a heat gun to secure this connection, so it's not gonna come apart. Then at that point, we're ready to put this back together. Once you've applied heat shrink to your connection, go ahead and let it cool down for a minute or 2. And then we're gonna go ahead and get our black cover back on for both of these pigtails, because now we're gonna move on to the next connection right here. All right, so again, moving into the second wire that we need to run here, go ahead and push the tab down right here and swing this up, and then this whole thing comes right out. Now go ahead and grab a pick tool and go ahead and pull upwards on the black plastic to release the blue tab, and then do the same thing on the other side here on the brown, because we have another red wire we have to plug into here. All right, once you went ahead and got this popped off, we need to look at the brown pigtail here. And if you notice, each of these are labeled here. It's gonna be a little tough to tell, but you can see the numbers on here. So we need to look at pin number 35, which is this blue and yellow one right here. Or I'm sorry, it's the yellow with the green. We're gonna go ahead and stick a pick tool in there, push down on the silver tab, pull it out, because we need to plug that into this here. And then this goes under the hood and it taps right into the fuse box. All right, once you got your FEM module reassembled, put your cover back on. Now we're gonna take the other end of this wire that we tapped into the second pigtail here, and we have to run it up in here. So I know it's a little hard to see, but up here to the right and on the kind of on the bottom side of this loom that's going through the firewall here, there's a hole. It's a little hard to see, but you can kind of see it right there a little bit. Feed that wire through that hole in there, and then go into your engine bay and pull the wire through. Okay, so now the next thing that you need to do is you need to go under the hood here on the passenger side and find your fuse box. This is basically hidden behind this black plastic cover here. So go ahead and turn 90 degrees, the 3 fasteners on top, and then grab the handle that's about here, pull it up. And now, as far as removing your fuse box, what you need to do is you need to get a pick tool or a flathead screwdriver or something and wedge it in here and basically push on the plastic towards the center. And you can see the whole thing just comes right up. And right in there is the red wire that we just ran from the interior. So go ahead and pull that through. Once you pull it through, go ahead and grab the black plastic socket pigtail that was also included with the kit. You go ahead and plug it into slot number 2, which is the second one from the right. You can see number 1 on the right, number 6 on the left. So go ahead and snap it into that slot right there. Make sure you hear the click. And there's our connection right there. And now this is going to plug into a slot underneath the fuse box. Okay, so now at this point, that black connector that you just assembled to the red wire has to go right in the center of all of this. So underneath the blue and the white, right there in the center with the tab facing up. So this might be a little bit of a better picture to show you. So the red tab facing up, it'll fit right in, only goes in one way. And once you do that, just go ahead and push in the red tab. And now you can go ahead and secure your fuse box. At this point, any additional wiring that you might have, just go ahead and round it up and tuck it all away right here inside the panel. And then we're gonna go ahead and get our panel back on over our FEM, and then we're gonna go ahead and reassemble our passenger side footwell. Okay, so now at this point, basically, I got in contact with the eBay seller who provided me the installation harness for my headlights and the red wires that you saw that we ran up from the trunk up to the car. He basically remoted into my computer via TeamViewer, and at this point, basically he can see that my car is plugged in, I'm hardwired in via Ethernet, and he's going to flash the car and get it to recognize that it has LEDs. Okay, now after about 2 minutes of coding, you can see our angelizer working because we have light. So basically at this point, once he's done coding and checking the car for errors, I'm gonna get out of the car, double check, make sure all the lights are working, and that'll be it. Alright guys, well there you have it. That right there is pretty much the step-by-step process on how to retrofit OEM adaptive LED headlights to your BMW F3X coupe or sedan. Now generally this video applies to the coupe, so that's the F32, F33 convertible, the F36 Grand Coupe, but it also applies to the F80 M3, F82 M4, and the F83 M4 convertible. So the process should be the same for all those applications, for all those cars, because the headlights are generally the same for all of them, since the 4 Series is all the same, and the M3 uses the same front end, M3, M4, they use the same front end as the 4 Series, as the coupe. So those should all be the same for the most part. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty confident that that's the case. Now, the process should be very similar for the sedan and the touring, or the wagon counterparts. There might be some variations with that, but again, your main issues are probably just going to be, or the main differences are going to be in the wiring. So that's why it's important when you order the wiring kit from Marius to make sure that you tell him what car you have, what headlights you have, and what's going in. And not only are you going to actually receive the proper wiring harness in the mail, but also when it's time for coding, he'll know exactly how to code your car so everything works accordingly. So I want to say that this job took me 7.5 hours, I think it was, from start to finish. Granted, I was also recording, so that always makes things take twice as long, but I was also trying to figure out how the wiring works. So if you remember back when I was working in the pigtails and the actual connectors that go into the actual headlights, I spent a good amount of time there just trying to figure out how all that works. But if someone were to bring me a new car with the headlights and they asked me to do it again, I could probably do it in 3 to 4 hours, I would say. Probably like 3 hours or so. So yeah, I would say slightly less than half the time it took me to do it, which was about 7.5 hours. The coding was also very simple. I basically had Marius remote into my computer and he did the coding. That took all of 5 or 6 minutes, honestly, so very easy. He already has the software set up on his computer, and he does offer the service if you don't feel comfortable or you don't want to do the coding on your own for a small fee. So that's also pretty nice to have. After you do this retrofit, what you're going to want to do next is basically go online, and there's a guide that you can follow in order to angle your headlights properly. So you want to go to a parking garage or a place that's flat and you have at least 25 feet in front of you, and like I said, the ground has to be flat so you can angle your lights correctly. And you want to make sure that you have your lights angled the way they should be, because you don't know if they were not angled correctly. But even considering the fact that you remove your old lights from the car and installed new ones, you want to make sure that that's all right so you don't blind anybody at night and your lights are angled correctly. So I will also say that this has been one of my most favorite retrofits to date, because I've been wanting to do this for a while. My car had the adaptive xenons, and you know, don't get me wrong, they were still pretty good, but I do think, and I do strongly think, that the adaptive LEDs just look that much better as far as the light. So when you look at the angel eyes and when they're running, from that to when you have your lights on, your low beams and your high beams, and having LED turn signals is also nice. So again, it's been one of my most favorite retrofits, and I've been meaning to do it for a while. I wanted to do it right with OEM parts because I don't like using aftermarket parts, and a lot of people I've noticed in, you know, some of the F30 groups, they tend to use knockoffs that they find online, be it from eBay or Amazon or AliExpress or wherever it is, and I would never put anything like that in my car because just the quality is not the same as OEM, and I'm very sure that the light output is just not going to be the same as well, and I highly doubt it's going to stand the test of time the same way that the OEM counterparts will. So with all that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it. I really enjoyed this retrofit, and I hope that you guys learned from it. Let me know down below in the comments if you have any questions or what your experiences are with this retrofit if you decide to take it on, and how it worked out for you. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. Please comment, rate, and subscribe. Thank you very much. Take care.